If you're into astrophotography like I am, you know how crucial precise framing is for capturing deep sky objects. Sometimes you just need to adjust your camera's angle for the right composition without messing up your entire setup. Hi, it's Gerald here from Optics Central and welcome back. Today we've got something that will make your astrophotography sessions way more comfortable, especially on those freezing Melbourne nights. Now, wouldn't it be great if you could remotely rotate your telescope instead of standing outside in the cold, manually adjusting it? No more frozen fingers. Well, that's where the ZWO Camera Angle Adjuster, CAA, comes in. It lets you rotate your camera remotely, making imaging sessions way more efficient and comfortable. Alright, so let's get into the unboxing and see what's inside the box.
So here we are at the unboxing part of the video. This is the Camera Angle Adjuster by ZWO, also known as the CAA. Let's take a look what is inside the box. The CAA can be used with the hand controller that was originally designed for the electronic autofocuser. This is the port we need to connect the hand controller into. And here is the USB-C port for communication with the ASI Air or your preferred computer system. There is a clear indication of what side your telescope and camera go. This is the M54 adapter that the CAA comes with, which is already attached. The equipment that I use is M48 sizing, and in the box we get the M48 plate that needs to be replaced. I will now put the M48 plate on the CAA. In the box we get a USB-A to USB-C cable, and there is a hex wrench. This is quite small and you overlook this like I originally did. I will loosen these small screws and remove the M54 plate and replace this with the M48 plate, and then tighten the screws snugly. There is no need to go overboard with tightening the screws, and that's it. I now have the M48 plate on the CAA. Now that I have done that, it's ready to put onto my telescope rig.
So let's go over some specs. It rotates in real time at 7.5 degrees per second. You can make super fine adjustments with step sizes as small as 0.02 degrees. It's perfect for precise framing. It's 16.5mm thick, which means it replaces any existing 16.5mm adapter in your imaging train without affecting the standard 55mm back focus. There's a USB-C port that lets you control it through the ASI Air, plus support for the hand controller. Now, it uses a hand controller that the EAF uses. If you want to adjust it manually, you can do that. It supports up to 4 kilograms, so it can handle pretty hefty cameras and accessories like filter wheels without too much stress. Let's take a closer look on how the CAA works. The CAA sits between your ZWO camera and your telescope's imaging train. It lets you rotate the camera without loosening any connections. It's super useful when you need to fine-tune your composition. Now, if you're using a newer camera like, say, the 2600 Duo or the 2600 Air, for example, you don't need to worry much about these adapters because they use M54 threads. Now, I'm using an older type of camera I'm actually using a 294 MC, which means I'll be most likely be using M48, which means I need to swap out the default plate for the M48 adapter that comes in the box. Once that's in place, I can thread my ASI 294 MC onto the camera side of the CAA. There are many different configurations depending on your setup, like using an off-axis guider, filter draw, and even electronic filter wheel. I've included links to the description to various setup scenarios so you can see what works best for you.
Now, let's fit the ZWO CAA into my current rig. This end is an M54 attachment. This is going to fit very easily onto the M54 size of my William Optics flattener. So let's screw that on. Now this is the M48 adapter plate that I put on previously. I've got the 21mm from the filter draw plus the 11mm spacer as well. And when I put this all together with the 16.5mm CAA width, I get 55mm back focus. So to summarize the spacing, the sensor is 6.5mm from the edge of the camera. Then there is the 21mm, the width of the filter draw, the 16.5mm width of the CAA, then there is the 11mm spacer 2. When I add up all the spacing, it adds up to 55mm. With that all screwed together, I am ready to attach the telescope to the mount and begin my imaging.
So here I am in my backyard with the camera rotator, and let's see how we go tonight.
Tonight's imaging session begins with the Horsehead Nebula. I enter its catalogue number NGC434 and tap the Go To button. My ZWO AM5 mount smoothly slews the telescope toward the target, locking it into place. A quick check confirms the nebula is centered in the frame. Now it's time to fine-tune the composition. To get the perfect angle, I adjust the camera using the CAA rotation, carefully watching as the image shifts into position. Once I'm happy with the framing, I move on to calibration, capturing flats, darks, and bias frames to ensure a clean final image. With everything dialed in, I start the imaging run. And after processing, here it is, the final shot of the Horsehead Nebula. Next up on tonight's agenda is the Running Chicken Nebula IC2944. Once again, I hit Go To, and the ZWO AM5 smoothly realigns the telescope. Framing is key, so I rotate the camera until the composition feels just right.
Tarantula, have a look at tarantula. It's pretty high up in the south.
With the CAA locked at the ideal angle, I capture another set of calibration frames and begin imaging. The data flows in, and after careful processing, in PixInsight, the final result appears of the Running Chicken Nebula, composed exactly how I want it.
The ZWO Camera Angle Adjuster may seem like a small addition to my astrophotography setup, but it's made a significant impact on the way I frame my shots. Before using it, I would often struggle with composition, having to rotate the entire imaging train or compromise on framing because the camera wasn't quite aligned with the object. Now, with just a simple adjustment, I can fine-tune my composition without too much effort. And best of all, I don't need to be right next to my telescope adjusting the angle. And so capturing deep sky objects will be exactly as I envisage them. Being able to rotate the camera freely means I can compose my shots in ways that feel right to me. For me, it's now become an essential part of my setup, and I will most likely buy a few more to go on each of my telescope rigs. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more astrophotography tips and gear reviews. If you've got any questions or experience in using the CAA, please drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep looking up and enjoy the wonders of the universe.